DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
It's Tide 5 time, Lachlan.
The Tide 5.
That means 5 separate sporting topics, roughly 90 seconds on each. And when we get reminded by the bell, onto the next topic we go. We're talking Dylan Walker, Liam Lawson, Rabbits-Panthers tonight, All Whites qualifying for the World Cup, or White Ferns lose again. And Mex reckons Artie at 7 to start against South Africa. Let us kick it with Dylan Walker, who has left the Warriors. Compassionate grounds. Honestly, if the NRL handed out a trophy for compassion, the Warriors would have more premierships than Penrith. If you remember, Reece Walsh left for compassionate grounds. Adam Fanua-Blake arrived under compassionate grounds. He was then going to leave at the beginning of last season for compassionate reasons, and then he decided to stay for other compassionate reasons, and he left at the end for compassionate reasons, and now Dylan Walker's going for compassionate reasons. I'm not saying there isn't compassionate reasons. I'm just saying that it seems a rather convenient clause, doesn't it? And the Warriors seem to have this sprung on them more than any other team.
Well, they have a habit of cutting short contracts more so than any other club. Now, for Dylan Walker, I think
his kids are over in Aussie now.
Yeah, so I think he's got a legitimate reason. Ignoring his situation, but just the Warriors' situation, you've got Reece Walsh, as you say, you've got Adam Fanua-Blake, now you've got Dylan Walker. You had Matt Lodge, which wasn't a compassionate grounds one. I think there was different grounds, but they still released him early from his contract.
I think they did say it was compassionate grounds, didn't they?
I can't remember. But Nathan Brown, another one. Now, I think the wording was, if I remember correctly, he wasn't being fired. They released him because he essentially didn't want to move to New Zealand.
He didn't realise that,
the joke
New Zealand was New Zealand.
Yeah, he didn't know that One or Vodafone at the time was a town in New Zealand. So they have a habit of doing this, which isn't good, because when you sign players and coaches and whatnot to contracts, you have the intention of them seeing it out. The strange thing is the Warriors have only played 3 games. We are so early in the season that the fact that they've let someone go so early, who, as far as I know, I could be wrong, but was off contract after the season, well, why can't you wait it out or get it sorted before the season starts? And he's gone to Parramatta as well, so it's not like he stopped playing.
And this is the thing. I mean, it always just raises all this speculation. In terms of the player himself, how much of a needle mover is he for the team?
I don't think so. I mean, you talk to Warriors fans, they act like...
Yeah, I read a lot yesterday. A lot of people saying it's virtually the difference between winning the title or not.
I mean, to be fair to Dylan Walker, he's reinvented himself as a very handy player off the bench, playing at lock. He can fill in the halves. He's a centre traditionally, as far as I know. He can even play fullback if you need. He did that at South Sydney.
That defines utility, didn't it?
Well, yeah, so it's a loss in that sense, and the Warriors have a thin roster as far as I'm concerned as it is, so you lose depth, but I don't think he is the difference between you making or missing the top 8.
Tony Kemp on this program a few weeks ago suggested CHT starting there
back
anyway.
In January.
Yeah. Liam Lawson and all of the rumours, from what we know right now, he's still driving in Japan alongside Max Verstappen, but the stories are gaining momentum. Every day there seems to be another website or news outlet somewhere which is saying that Sonoda is going to take his place. As I started the program by saying, Liam will know better than anyone what he has to do, and he knows also that he hasn't been performing in that car. But that car is a bloody dog, isn't it? It's very difficult to drive by the look of it. The thing is that he didn't get given this. It's not the All Whites going to the World Cup where you've essentially got a free ticket. He's earned the right to be that number 2 driver. So Red Bull have got a lot of faith in him. If they do replace him, are they replacing him with a guy that's better? I would argue no.
Well, a guy that's quicker. Well, a guy that's more experienced in Formula 1.
Sure, but he's not actually producing points and results either.
Well, no, but he's in a team that's not expected to consistently score points, so we need to understand that.
But Liam was chosen over him, though.
Yeah, but Liam's in a car where you are expected to score points. That's one of the problems here. It's a car that clearly is hard to get used to, because Red Bull have produced a bunch of great drivers who have graduated into Formula 1, whether driving for Red Bull or someone else. And none of those drivers, when they've actually been at Red Bull as the number 2, have quite worked out. So maybe there's a bit of an issue with it, the second car that they build. The sad thing is that 2 races, or 2 rounds, 3 races if you want to include the Chinese sprint, is really not enough
it's not a lot of time.
For Liam to really, I guess, stamp his mark on the car, if you will. At the same time, it's a cutthroat business. It's a nasty business. The thing about Yuki Tsunoda, yeah, sure, he's qualified well this year. I think he had some good finishes last year, particularly in the back end of the season, if I remember correctly. While he's talented and he's shown that
carries
in
a
parts,
reputation.
Well, he comes across very bratty, very immature. He complains a lot. He doesn't seem to get on with, follow team orders too well. There was a moment in one of the Grand Prix recently where someone told him to do something and he just said no. So he's got that reputation. So I don't understand how that's going to translate well into a car that clearly is tricky to drive. So what if Yuki also underperforms?
Yeah, well, then what?
So
Liam comes back again?
But
I would have thought he'd be given more than 2 races.
Yeah, I think he will. I think surely he will. But I don't know. Also funny, the Red Bull bosses, whether it was early this year or late last year, made a comment about Yuki Tsunoda saying, no, he's matured. He's much better in that department.
Let's talk about the All Whites, because I made mention of that. I was at the game on Monday. It's a different feeling, being as old as I am, having lived through and being, I was 17 when we qualified in 1981, 1982 to go to Spain, the All Whites. And what an epic journey that was. It was probably the best ever story about a team qualifying for a World Cup. 15 games in a campaign. It was just up and down like this. And back in those days, playing soccer in New Zealand, I was what was called a soccer puff, because that's what you were labelled at school by playing soccer. We weren't allowed to play soccer at school, round ball football. We actually had no field. We were made to wear rugby jerseys and rugby socks, and we had to train at another school. Same bat Silverstream. So the sport has moved on a lot from there. So in 1981-82, you remember the Springbok tour was on. So football, round ball football, soccer having centre stage and going to a World Cup. For somebody who loved that sport, it was just fantastic. Then in 2010, we only had to beat Bahrain. And when I say only had to beat Bahrain, you look at any other team in the world qualifying for the World Cup, and they would consider that to be a pretty handy way of getting to a World Cup. We won through Oceania. We did the business against Bahrain. This time, it's only Oceania. And I say that with no disrespect, because this is a professional team full of guys playing all over the world for the All Whites for New Zealand. There is no way we were winning that game. So it doesn't feel like the same euphoria that...
You mean losing?
Sorry, we were losing the game. So it just doesn't feel like the same euphoria that surrounded 82 and obviously 2010. I'm not taking anything away from the team. I'm going to love watching them play in the United States next year. But I just haven't been able to get whoop overexcited about winning this campaign.
No, I'm the same.
Sorry. I'm not sorry, but that's just how I feel about it. Yeah. And, obviously next year, as Michael Boxall says, and a lot of the players have said as well, it's about getting a result next year, right? And I mean, that means perhaps trying to win a game. We drew all 3 in 2010. Got to try and win a game in the group stage now. That's the next step. Whether we do or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's the next step. Rabbits-Panthers tonight. Round 4 kicking off in the NRL. Rabbits 2-1, 11th. Panthers 1-2, 12th. No better time to play the Panthers than now.
Yeah, Nathan Cleary not playing. Someone who I've never heard of is playing halfback, with all due respect.
I bet he's not bad.
He's probably good. Panthers have obviously a good track record of producing good young players, which was shown last week against Melbourne. While it's easy to be down on them, they showed a lot of heart in that game last week.
But they've conceded a big bag of points in 2 games.
Yeah, 38 and 30, and they did concede 22, was it, or 20 against Cronulla and
something like that.
So,
so it's un-Panthers-like, because you expect their defence to be rock solid.
Actually, to be fair, Andrew Johns made this point on Channel 9 the other night when I was watching a clip on YouTube, and it's a fair point that this is a team for 4 years that have gone to the grand final and won it. So you play 3 to 4 finals games. They've also played those preseason World Club Challenge games. The bulk of their star players, Nathan Cleary, Isaiah Yeo, Liam Martin, Dylan Edwards, all these guys. Brian To'o, they've all played Origin and for Australia as well, or in To'o's case, he's played for Samoa. So you add essentially another season on for all of that.
Yeah,
so
right,
there's a point when their bodies are going to be breaking down, and maybe now is that point. They've also lost Jerome Luai and James Fisher-Harris. 2 more rep-level players are gone from this Panthers team. And while they produce good young players, there's going to be a point where that catches up. And maybe that's this year, which is why I'm tipping the Bunnies.
Tonight.
I think the Bunnies win. I think the Panthers...
Wayne Bennett will have that team absolutely right for this game. You know it.
Well,
because he knows. Beat the Panthers tonight. Beat them tonight.
Yeah, they're not a bad team, South Sydney, and they've got a good coach. They're missing some players, which we've been saying for weeks, but they have performed well to start the season. Yeah, so you're also at... I think they're at home, I believe. They're at home against... It was an alarm. It was an alarm for work. Leave me alone. But they are a team. No, it genuinely was an alarm. You know what it said on it?
No, I don't care, mate. You can lie. Don't lie like a guy.
I'm not going to say it. But I think the Panthers are there for the taking in South Sydney.
Final topic. White Ferns lose again.
I don't care. I'm not talking about the White Ferns.
White Ferns dropped more catches off a single player than they took wickets yesterday. Why do we shite the bed when we play Australia? That's what, the 11th, 10th loss in a row.
I don't care. Well done on the World Cup win last year. Leicester City like that World Cup win, I think we can say, because outside of it, they have been terrible. Yeah. Well done, world champions, isolating that, but outside of that, if I can take that out, You've been awful, White Ferns. Move on.
Ardie Savea at 7. Mex suggested this yesterday. We've had so many views. Thank you so much for looking at that on the podcast and all of the comments as well. Appreciate that as well. He's saying Ardie at 7 to play the box, and his reasoning being simply that we need some height to counter theirs, and we've got to win first phase possession. And in the 2 matches we played in South Africa last year, I think we were down to 40% or under possession, and you can't beat them unless you get a lot of the ball. And so what he's saying is if Ardie plays 7 and Ardie could play 7, that leaves 6 or 8 to add some extra height.
Well, because you play Ardie at 8 and have Summer Penifino at 6? By that logic?
Well, I mean, to select the best 7, you've got to select the best player in the country playing 7.
But is he the best 7?
I believe so.
Well, he's been playing number 8
he's the best 7 and the best 8.
How do you know?
Because he was the best 7 before he went to 8.
Well, when did he? No, but he's been playing number 8 for about, 5 or 6 years? He wasn't the best. No, he wasn't the best 7 when he went to 8. Sam Cane was.
Well, I'd say that you could argue that. And I'd say that Ardie Savea playing 7 is a damn good number 7. One of the best in the world playing 7.
Well, yes, but I don't think this is what Murray Mexted says, and I will bow to his knowledge, that there's not a huge difference between 7 and 8. There are differences, but there's not a huge difference, so you can assume that. But Ardie Savea hasn't played open side.
Well, Max wants him at 7, I'm with Max.
Well, I'm just saying, you can still play Ardie Savea at number 8, and you can play, hypothetically, Duplessis Kirifi or Ethan Blackadder at open side, Sean Withy, if we can plug Nigel Yeldon's opinion from a week ago, and then have Summer Penifino at blindside.
Well, you pick 6, 7 and 8 to start the first test against South Africa.
What I would do, or what will happen?
Give us both.
What will happen, it'll be Ardie at number 8, Ethan Blackadder at number 7. Satiti, will he be back by then? I think he will. He'll be blindside. What I think should happen is move Satiti to number 8. Actually, no, I wouldn't do that.
See, here we go. If you're saying that, Ardie goes to 7 in that case, right?
Maybe.
See, yeah. I think the same. I think Satiti, Ardie, and I think either Fina or Blackadder at 6.
Because you do need Tupuvai stands at 2 metres. Scott Barrett is shorter than that. And you've got South African locks that are typically
8
really
foot,
tall,
9 foot each.
They may as well be 12 foot.
Yeah.
So we need another option in that department. I don't think Scott Barrett playing him at blindside is an option anymore.
Why not?
Because
He was damn good at 6.
Was he?
Yes.
When was the last time he started? Wait, that wasn't the last time he started.
I would be happy with
but
Barrett at 6.
Well, then
and
who are
Ardie
your
at 7.
locks? Sam Darry's injured. Josh Lord, I think, is being hyped up a bit too much.
Yeah. If it was Darry, I'd say Darry.
Yeah, people are raving about Fabian Holland from the Highlanders, but he's still pretty young. So who else is there?
Well, we got 3 tests against France to test them out.
Patrick Tuipulotu maybe, and Tupuvai. I guess those are options. But then again, if you're playing Scott Barrett at blindside, then what, Satiti's number 8 and Ardie's number 7?
This is a good selection. Around the pub, having a couple of jars. As you pens and paper down and pick the tight forwards and the... Go on, leave us a comment.
Well, there'll be one Cantabrian who has an All Crusaders starting 15 as well. So
Always.
Leave
us a comment here on DSPN YouTube channel. Appreciate it.
DSPN.